Yo, welcome. Welcome to the show. It is the show. I'm really glad you're here. If you're listening to this, then you're obviously making some good life choices, and I applaud you in that because making good life choices is not like a given. It's not to be taken for granted. There's just constant pitfalls everywhere, just waiting for you to make a mistake, So, right, obviously watching this is very far distant away from any of that kind of talk. So, yeah, welcome. It's good to have you. I just want to say hi. There I said it. Oh man, you guys. Well, it's been a super long day, at least for me. I just got home after I was trying to crunch the numbers. It's definitely more than 12 hours of straight work. I want to say like more towards the 14, 16 hour range. Yeah, and I don't know how your working situation is, what it's like with you. I mean, I guess technically I'm not actually directly talking to you, although I am curious, regardless, whether you're watching this now or on the replay. What's it like for you at work? Do you work too much? Probably, right? Do you wish you could spend more time with your loved ones, maybe family and friends? It's a pretty common thing. Or maybe you don't work enough. Maybe you're looking for work. You wish you had a better job or even a job. I know it's rough out there. So, yeah, this will probably be a shorter show, but I still really wanted to touch on this thing that happened here because, well, I always find it interesting, right? We obviously know that everything that's going on here in the news, even if it does seem like an important story, it usually is not an important story. It's just a major distraction technique to make sure you're not doing or thinking about a different thing. And I don't know, maybe they've been doing this for a while, but this really seemed to kick into gear also around the 2016 election and that whole phase. Which I guess goes hand in hand with them releasing all those propaganda controls against directing American propaganda back at its own people. There used to be some law that you could only produce the propaganda for non-nationals, for whatever that thing is, Voice of America and other sort of still run by the state, but focused on foreigners or foreign nations. But those rules were appealed a couple years ago, and since then I've definitely noticed sort of a dramatic shift in the tone, the scope, and just the basic pushiness of the media in general, trying to get you to believe or think or focus on something. So when this celebrity death thing started, I mean, right? Maybe it has been going on for a long time, but it seems like in the past couple years it's really ramped up, right? So whenever there's something that they want to take your attention away from, say maybe like the botched Iowa elections, that there'll be all sorts of nice, distracting, heart wrenching, yeah, celebrity deaths, and that it can kind of soak up all the air out of the room. Now that see, I did want to get that in here if I could. Maybe I can find that later. But this is really just right. This is the BBC. This is just one of the articles. But when I opened my feed this morning, the good old Feedly, this was one of those stories that was plastering the whole thing, right? I think about 5 or 6 stories fit on my phone screen at once, and you really know something's up when your entire phone screen is filled with literally the same exact story, with the same exact talking points, and usually being released around the same hour or so, right? From news publications all over the world, and obviously, I guess that news would come out, but just these things always seem like some coordinated distraction technique to distract you even more from the things that are distracting you. It's like a nested, deeper thing, right? Before today, you weren't really thinking about Kirk Douglas. He was just kind of a dude, and now he is trending like mad. And there's a good chance that you spent some time soaking up information about Kirk Douglas when maybe you should have been doing something else. I mean, I'm not telling you how to live your life. You can spend all day. You can spend your whole life studying Kirk Douglas for all I care. But I think it's still important to notice the trends and the tactics, because then you can sort of protect yourself a little bit, or at least right, have some incredulousness when you see stuff like this. That right, because I guess that's kind of why I titled it. These big celebrities die, right? Obviously, Kobe was the big one so far this year, and they make a big whole rigmarole. But I mean, I know, and I hope you also know from previous experiences with at least this government and many other governments all through history, that if an event is able to get something advantageous, some sort of political victory, or able to sway the people in a certain direction, that's the important part, right? The public swaying, the changing of the minds. And for that to happen, the event itself does not need to be true. The event itself could be fully manufactured, right? And you can start from the goal that you're wanting and then sort of fill in the story after the fact. Right? So that's sort of what I started to think about. Was this planned and just dropped specifically on this day, the 6th of February, for everything that it has to do? I guess you could check all the good old numerologies, his name, 103. Dude was old as fuck, right? Like, how did you get that old? Were you drinking virgin's blood or something weird like that? Like, seems pretty old, even for like a rich Hollywood dude. And I just wanted to come over here to his IMDb, because that at least for any major actor, that's how you get to know them pretty well. Right, dude was born a long time ago. He's from Amsterdam, which is also interesting. Seat of power. A lot of connections between the Netherlands and America, especially during this time. Right, a long time ago. Right, but we keep seeing the same image from, right, this is on IMDb. This is also on the BBC and a bunch of other publications, because I guess this must have been part of the press packet that they sent out. So it is also somehow important that we see this image again, right? There's probably millions of people that have been looking at this, right? With his, I mean, let's take another look at it. He's got the arm thing. Definitely some minor symbolism going on here. He has this cut here on his chest. His weird, like, inward pointing nipple. Bare chested, right? It really is a bygone era, this sort of strong man. Like what we were talking about previously. It's just not something you see very much anymore. But Spartacus was the big one, obviously, and dude's credits go back a real long way. Looks like he hasn't been on screen in almost a decade, but right, also producing things, and just right, it goes on forever. These are all major productions, not just student films or anything like that. And it really makes me wonder about characters like this. What is their purpose in a forward-facing society, right? Public society, and what I'm much more curious about was this guy's role in the back room society, right? The social and political connections that are going on behind closed doors that we aren't privy to, right? The things that don't end up on the BBC. The Because I'm sure, even though there is probably a lot of coordinated, organized, just general wrecking of humanity, there must also be infighting and disagreements and people that are more powerful than others. And yeah, and it makes me wonder about Kirk Douglas. Who is he? Is he maybe like a really high up figure in the whole scene? Is this somebody that holds a lot of power? And what I keep thinking, especially as we move towards something, right? It's hard to say exactly what, the Great Conjunction or Civil War or just some sort of global conflict. It's obviously not anything that they've been running as distraction stories, right? I doubt it's going to be the coronavirus or anything like that. I doubt it has anything to do with Kirk Douglas, but that's sort of what I'm saying. I think when they run these major stories, that it has a sort of dual effect, that it's going to distract us, also bring us back to this time period, get people nostalgic that actually lived through this era and saw these movies, and also provide cover, right? Because my thought is that maybe as the elite are getting ready for this next major event, that maybe the big guys they're starting to phase out now so they can go down to the bunker and get ready. You know what I mean? Maybe they're maybe he's just headed down to the bunker and he's not going to be seen publicly anymore because he's settling into his new home on the negative 300th floor, right? In whatever mega deep underground military base that he's going to post up in during the Great Cataclysm, and that this whole big fanfare is right a distraction for us, but also a dual sort of signaling, saying that yeah, right, whoever this guy actually is, maybe he's like the Secretary of State or the Prime Minister or something, and then everybody that's in the know, right? It's a telegraph to them saying, "Oh, well, Mister Secretary's headed down to the facility." Is what this means. He's headed to the facility. Just a thought. I don't know. Maybe he just died. Maybe I'm just reading way too much into it. But I still, that's sort of my thing here, to try to put all the options on the table. Everything from it being completely mundane and pointless and just somebody that died, or sort of a telegraphing mix cover story nod to your fellow dudes, because that's just the vibe that I get. A lot of news articles you read, and there does seem to be some third or fourth layer or some coded language or numbers that really shows, seems to show you what they're actually talking about. But since we don't know the code, we can't really crack it, and it's almost like it's uncrackable. Now, I mean, this whole thing I found super boring, because it was obvious, at least to me, that this guy wasn't going to get impeached. This definitely seems like in that category of a full-on distraction, that there really never was any plan to actually impeach this guy. But it's almost like they've filled up the entire time that this guy has been president, trying to get him out. And I guess that would be a very good distraction if you had to do other business and you weren't actually really planning on governing or helping people out. Then you would do something like this. You would run a huge distraction and make it seem like you're fighting for the people, when in reality, right, you're just wasting all the time that you could actually be spending helping the people with this sort of vague PR play stunt thing that's going on, and then instead of actually having to spend that money or improve people's lives, you got everybody really mad on both sides. If you're actually still stuck in the two party paradigm, it really doesn't matter who you were, right? You're either super mad that he didn't get impeached, or you're super mad that they wasted all that time and energy and money on trying to impeach him, and right, all of those people sort of should go away, should go home, right? And which is why I really just, I don't want to give this guy too much screen time, because this really is sort of the main, right? This whole thing is Kirk Douglas on steroids. It's day in, day out. Although this story really is a little different because it has deeply altered sort of the fabric of space time, of everybody's minds. It's everybody thinks different now. This guy is one of the greatest magic tricks, on par with 9/11 or any of those other sort of grand magic tricks, because any great magic trick is able to shift consciousness, right? That is the magic trick. That you thought something was happening, and it really wasn't. That was not the truth, right? The card was in the other hand, or there must have been something you missed. And that's sort of what's happened in this new area with this guy. And so I find interesting, the idea that, the study of the shifting of consciousness and the effect that this has had on society in general, and is still having, obviously. But on sort of the more detailed, granular day-to-day level, it's obviously all just a major distraction. There's no movement actually happening here. There's no actual, like, I just don't picture it. Them having closed-doors meetings and having discussions about how they're going to be able to get him out, maybe try this or try that, and see what they can do. I just don't, I can't picture that happening. I picture them, having a meeting and sitting in a big room and looking at their grand calendar, which has all the events in it, right? Oh, yeah, Kirk Douglas. When is Kirk Douglas leaving? That's on Thursday, right? Okay, so what if we finish the impeachment trial like the week before that? That's gonna look pretty good, right? I just picture this like sort of very elaborate, complex, layered Google Calendar, where you have, right, celebrity deaths, political events, natural disasters, and all sorts of other fun stuff, right? Obviously, it'd be great to get an invite to that Google Calendar, because it'd be nice to know what's going on in the future, and obviously, again, that's another fantastic control mechanism to not let people know what's actually coming for them, and to withhold that information, right? Because even though we do live in this information age, this time of just incredibly free flowing, endless information, it's still the same game that they were playing back then in the Middle Ages, right? When they were protecting their sacred books, the monks, and not letting other people read them. There's still a lot of like occulted, secret knowledge that happens, and that is being created, and that right, compartmentalized things, and it's on a par with consciousness control and all that kind of stuff. What if you are able to control the flow of information? Then you have all of it. You have all the cards. Why would you bother? Why would you give that up, right? Why would you actually release key info? Because you know that you're going to be able to control people with that. And same with this. I see this all as being orchestrated. I don't see why you would do it any other way, right? We're already sort of having our faith in democracy and the democratic process. It's been shaken to its core. And here we are heading into this next election where everybody's hoping beyond hope to unseat this quote unquote monster that is ruining America and the planet, by corollary. Right, so you would think that people would know how important this election is to people, that also the first vote, the first sort of event in the race for the Democrats would also be very important, that there would be a lot of scrutiny on that. I would think that would be something that you would assume and know is happening, right? So for them to have this flawed process, because extra delegates are there, you're dividing by total caucus members, not final voters, right? And it's using this weird old, like, antiquated system where, yeah, you go hang out with your friend, and then you go talk to your other friend, and then you convince those friends to vote for somebody they didn't want to vote for, out of peer pressure, or because there's not enough people sitting with you. Right, let's just check this out for 1 second. Here is the official explanation for the rounding errors. If they have an extra delegate, it's awarded to the candidate with the highest decimal below zero point 0.5. But why do they have all these leftover delegates? Because they're dividing by original voters, not the final number of voters. Right, and you got some charts. You could spend all day looking into this stuff and see why and why it's going wrong. And right, I'm sure there's just tons of information you could suck down around this, trying to understand why is it fake? Is it not fake? Why did they do it like this? And why didn't they do it a different way? And I've seen a lot of coverage flowing in and out about the caucuses and what's to be done there. How could they have done it better? How could this be avoided? And will it be avoided in future events, right? And then you obviously have a lot of people on Twitter fighting about this, and then all this time that you're spent thinking about Kirk Douglas or the Iowa convention, or even the president for that matter, it's all time that you haven't spent thinking about your family or working towards some larger goal, or maybe meditating, or I don't know, trying to achieve enlightenment, or something greater. Right? That's why personally I'm not even that drawn to the news as I used to be. Because I mean, it's still interesting, but you see it for that. I see it for that it really is, it's meant to pull you away from what really is important. And since they've done such a good job, they've managed to pull so many people away from each other, almost away from their own relationships. And so, I mean, yeah, you have to tell me what your experience is like, but it seems like relationships just in general have been eroding. Things seem to be less cohesive than they ever were, right? People willing to drop things or quit or move along looking for a better situation, right? Much less than I guess in previous generations the case would be to work for a company or work for somebody and dedicate your life to that. Now it's a little more like I'll be here for a little bit, but what can I get better next month or next year, right? And that's definitely how my thought process works these days. Always on the lookout for a better situation, a better hookup, and if I have to tear through some people or just break some relationships, that maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's the right move to get myself into a better situation. And maybe, yeah, who knows? Who knows? Now, you guys watching YouTube can't see this. Somebody on Twitch just wrote, Want to become famous? Question mark. Can I pull this over here? Is this gonna? No, it's not gonna work. He's asking me if I want to become famous. I can buy followers. I can buy followers, right? I don't even. I don't really think that's how that works either. I don't think you're supposed to be able to buy your way into the situation that you want. But maybe that is really the problem. That the people with all the wealth and power have been doing their darndest to pay for the situation that they want. But that there are actually forces in the world stronger than cash and money, right? Even if you spent millions of dollars, I think, on fake followers, that's still not gonna really make that a reality, right? You would have to actually do something that people want to look at and look at for a long time. Or is it that easy, right? Can you just put people on TV or give them a platform large enough for them to grow and change and then become part of people's lives, and before you know it, that person is irreplaceable? And all it did take was a couple $1,000,000 for it to get off the ground. Let's just read this really quick. Mitch Keller says, "Please stop. I have a PhD in mathematics and I'm a fully trained Iowa caucus secretary. Every photo you have provided is done per the rules. This is a standard method known as Hamilton's appointment method." To which this lady responds, "The math is absurd. You're dividing by initial votes instead of the final voters, and it inherently leaves an extra delegate unaccounted for in many precincts. Probably more extra delegates than the margin of victory. That delegate gets, quote, assigned by a rule. But that is not voting." Right, so a lot of hair splitting and just a lot of talk and energy being put out that the election is not working, which falls in line with basically all political reporting that's been happening since 2016. I want to say that the system is broken, and that, well, you shouldn't trust it. There's nothing you can do to fix it. It's so broken that even if you got the best, most righteous individuals in there, they would still be poisoned by it somehow and game the system and break it back to their own advantage. And obviously, it'll be a major problem if you can get somebody in there that is self-interested and will bend the rules towards themselves. Then, well, there's really nothing you can do to stop them. We have to just let them steal the world, right? And it's just making everybody very upset. And right, this argument's been building for quite some time, so I don't see them slowing it down anyway, especially during this whole election period. So right, definitely expect as we go forward many more stories like this, even though other states don't have caucuses. That I expect to see many more stories like this with bad vote totals and recounts and finger pointing and hair splitting and right. Meanwhile, none of this time is you searching towards enlightenment or any sort of higher functioning, which is so maybe we're all wasting our time. Well, as long as you're happy, as long as you're having a decent time, then I say, might as well waste some time. I guess we have enough of it left over. What's up, Eric Elliott? Eric Elliott's in the house, guys. It's always good to see Eric Elliott. He's got good vibes. He's got good energy, and I appreciate that. As I appreciate basically anybody interacting with me here on this channel, but Eric's got some good energy, so I appreciate that. 100 back to you, bro. Keep it 100. You the man. See, it's an interactive show. It's a very interactive show, I would say. And with that, it seems like we've somehow made it to 30 minutes again. How does that even happen? How does that happen? How does it? I mean, it does. Time just flies by. And then, yeah, I guess pretty soon we'll all be dead. Hopefully of natural causes. Well, knock on wood, right? Hopefully we'll all die of natural causes.
Goodbye. That's the end of the show. Now you should go. Just do something else, like do what you wanna do. I don't wanna tell you what you should do, but just I guess try and think about if what you're doing is like totally a distraction and not worth your time or energy. Just like think about it.
Much love, guys. Keep it real, and just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to just do something real in this incredibly fake and just ridiculous world. Do your best. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Good night.